Hi, my name is Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video on Microsoft 365. And today I want to talk about Forms, Power Automate, and a little bit of SharePoint thrown in. So let's get started. Our use case is that we've got a center of excellence, we'll call it for this example, that we want people to volunteer for, and we want them to answer some questions and say that their supervisor is approved as well. So here's our form so far. So I've set up the supervisor name and email, and then they answer a set of questions. So we've got 4 questions we want them to say yes to. And then I've got this question that if they answer no to any of these, I want this to come up. I understand I will not volunteer. And then we get comments. And then inside Power Automate, we'll only send an email and write it to SharePoint if they did answer yes to those questions. So first, let's take a second and just set up the branching. So that's kind of a little bit interesting. So we'll come in and we'll say, okay, I confirm that my supervisor has approved my participation. If they say yes, we do want them to go next. But if they say no, we just want to jump down to that number 7. So we'll do that for the first few of these. So again, the second one, they jump down, say if no, come down here. If they say no, we'll jump to number 7. Now in number 6, it's reversed. Okay, so if they say yes, I want them to skip number 7 and go to the comments. But if they say no, I want them to get to this, I understand I will not volunteer. So that'll be just the opposite. So this one will skip to comments, and then if they say no, we'll go with next. So let's just try that real quick. So we'll come back and just preview it. And I'll just actually going to skip these because we're not even going to fill it up. So if I say yes, I get to the next one, yes, yes, comment. So that worked fine. Let's go no. I go right to I will not volunteer. It's not number 7 anymore. It renames it to number 4, but go that in comments. So if I go no, I get to I will not volunteer, and then I get comments. If I go number 5, same thing. And then if I go no on number 6, I do get the comment. So it looks like that's all good to go. So other things I want to do when I'm here is go ahead and grab the ID, because we're going to need that inside Power Automate. So let's go ahead and paste that in. Let's make sure the form shows up. And what I want is this ID at the end here. So right after the equal sign, I grab that. All right, let's go over to Power Automate. I'm going to make a new automated cloud flow. We'll call it video get volunteer responses. And the trigger that's already the default, or the first one listed, is new response from Microsoft Forms. And if you watched some of my videos before, you'll see I've talked about this. When we make it a group form, which I really didn't talk about, but we like these to be group rather than personal forms, but only the personal forms show up. So I don't actually have that one there. So I have to enter custom value and paste in that ID. So then I have to do it again, type in forms, get response details, and now I should have the choice with the response ID. So what I'm eventually going to do, so I'm going to create a variable first, but I'll come back and we'll set up the variable. So I'll say variable, and we're going to initialize it, so we've got to find that choice. So I'll say var agreed terms. And it's eventually going to be Boolean, but I'm just going to say this true for now. And I like to copy this. We're going to come back and edit that, but let's go ahead and just get the rest of the logic in there. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say control, and I'm going to do condition. So I'm going to say email and write to SharePoint if agreed terms. And so what I'm going to do is if that variable is equal to true, then I'm going to do that. If it's false, I'm not going to do anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill out to true. So what I'm going to do is SharePoint. I haven't actually showed you the SharePoint yet, so I'll go ahead. Let me get the thing set up and we'll jump over to that for a minute. But I'm going to create an item in SharePoint. So we'll come back to that in a minute. I've got our SharePoint here that I already created. So I've called it Center of Excellence Volunteers. And you'll see it doesn't have any entries in it yet. Let's go look at the columns. So as you might know, when you first create a blank list, it'll make a column called title, and I just renamed that to responder email. And then I added supervisor name, supervisor email, and the other ones. These are those 4 questions. And I did them a single line of text because I'm bringing in yes or no, and that's just a little easier to really tell that it worked than trying to make it a yes-no column. And then I put will not volunteer. Now we're expecting this to be blank because they should never get to it. But if we see a yes or anything in there, we know it's a problem. And then comments, there I just made it plain text. It's multiple lines of text because they could type lots of stuff in there. We don't want it to error because it ran out of space. Okay, so coming back over here, we got to find that one. I believe it's this here. And we'll know it's the right one. Yep, Center of Excellence Volunteers. And so then it's going to show us all our columns. And as we've done on other emails, we're going to just grab all the things. So we're going to get the responder's email, get supervisor name, supervisor email, and these I just have to make sure I can match up. So I confirm my supervisor as approved. I confirm that licenses are temporary. I agree to provide feedback. And I agree to complete mandatory training. And then I'll put this, gotta say see more. I understand I will not volunteer, which again should end up being blank. And then the comments. There we go. And let's go ahead and finish this off. I'm going to just send an email. And we'll come up here and find the right connector. Send an email v2. And who am I going to send that to? I got to switch to advanced mode here. It's going to be the supervisor email. And I'll say Center of Excellence. Oh, and actually this is wrong, sorry. I want to send this to the recipient. Responder email. Oh, and actually I like to get it right from the form anyway, rather than, just in case something went wrong with the SharePoint, I don't want to double down on it. So I'll go to the responder's email. And while I'm thinking of it, I want to show the CC. And that's going to be the supervisor. So let's go ahead and do that while we're at it. So again, that's the supervisor email there. So I'll say Center of Excellence submission 4. And one thing I really liked is even though when you get the Excel, it shows the name of the respondee, it doesn't show it when it comes across to Power Automate. So I always have to put the respondee email in there, or responder's email, but that's not a big deal. So, but I do know the supervisor name, so I'll say well, but in this case, I don't need to put it yet, but I'll say, thank you for volunteering. Here are your responses. And easiest here is if we actually just copy. I'll move this to my other screen so I can do it easier, but I'll go ahead and just copy the questions if I need the longer one. So I'll just say supervisor. I'll come back and put the values in there. And I literally just copy each one of these lines. And watch your can get a little bit of strange formatting, a little extra line inside here, but I usually like to err on the side of having it formatted with too many lines rather than be all squished together. But you might play with it in your environment, see what it looks like. All right. And I know the last one is comments, like that. All right, and then we can just come over here and get your supervisor name, supervisor email, provide feedback, agree to provide mandatory training and comments. There we go. All right, so we're, other than the setting up this variable, we're set. So let's go ahead and save it, make sure we haven't done anything wrong. All right, so let's go back to this one. And I want to enter a custom value. And this was kind of some interesting things here. And when I played with this, I did have some issues. So first thing we want to do is I had to go find this equals thing. And you see it has two objects, 1 and 2, and it can be any type, and it'll return true if they're equal. And that's what I found before. So let's see if we can play with this. So I'm going to change this to string, and that's why this is having trouble. It's being so strict that it won't allow me to work with, since these aren't true false values, won't allow me to work with them for whatever reason. So we'll play around and do some debugging here. So let's try that again. So we'll say equals. And what I want to do is grab each of our questions. So I'll come in and say, okay, if I confirm if that's equal to yes, notice that's in single quotes, then that should be true or false. Okay, and then I want to combine that with an AND function. Notice it has two expressions. And notice it is only 2. It'd be nice if this could be 4, because I got 4 things. But I can just do that equals again for the second expression. So I'll say equals, and I'll take the next question, which is that any licenses are granted, and that'll be yes, like that. So let's try that so far. Notice I put an extra parentheses for the and I say add. So far so good. Now I'm going to just, because it gets a little complicated, I'm going to select all that and just cut it out and put it over here in Notepad for a second. So let's see if we can do the same thing for the second part. So we'll do the equals, and that'll be the third question. I agree to provide feedback. And again, that's yes. And we'll combine the and. Have another equals. And that'll be mandatory training. Again, yes in single quotes. So let's try that one, see if it works. Alright, so I'm doing so well so far. So now we need to combine the two of those, so we have one set of two and, an and that has two, and another set, and then we need an and over the overall one. So I'm going to copy this back from Notepad. So I'm going to say all the way to the top here. And first thing, comma, whoops, that'll mess me up if I put the M instead of, and then and all the second thing. And I should just need another comma. So let's see if I did the syntax right. So far, so good. And then I'm going to, let me save this first. It says it's ready. And then I'm going to see if I can change that back to Boolean, because that's what it should be, is a Boolean. So let's save that. It's a little bit of a workaround there where I wasn't ready to do it. All right, let's go ahead and test it and see. So I can't test it in the normal way. So let's go out after I saved it, because I got to go back to the form now. So let me bring that form over. So I was copying from it, so I had it kind of inside there already. So let me go back to the top, and I'm going to assume my supervisor name is Paul McCartney. And one of my emails is that. So let me notice that's not my Microsoft 365 email. So I'm going to say, actually, let's try to do a no first. So I'm going to say no on that one. So I notice if I try to, I'll say test comments. But if I try to not select that, actually I should have, I can't unselect it, but it would tell me it's mandatory is what I was getting at. So let's submit that. And what I would expect is that to come through as false. So let's go back and look. Let's see if we can refresh this run. And it says it succeeded. So let's see what this variable came through. False. So that's good. That's what we expect. And then what should happen is it went through this false side and didn't go and didn't try to create an item. So if I come back to this SharePoint, that should be blank still. So let me reload. So far, so good. So let's go back to the form and let's submit another one. So let's give it with, we'll say I'm John Lennon this time. I'll use that same email. And this time I'll say yes to everything. Yes, yes, yes. And I'll just say, sample comments here. And we'll submit. Let's go back to Power Automate. Oops, get to the right one. See, I have another one. Just happened. Let's see what this one is. True. So look like that worked. That's great. So now I come in here, I create the item, send an email. Let's go look at the SharePoint list. There we go. Supervisor name, John Lennon. That's who we sent it to. These all say yes. The will not volunteer is no or blank. And then sample comments here. So let me check my email. Yeah, so here it is. Let me make it a little bit smaller. All right, Center of Excellence submission. Notice this is my Microsoft 365 name, email address. So that was in the title. So it was sent to me. Copy the supervisor. Remember that different application is in. Thank you for volunteering. Here's your responses. Supervisor email. Yes, 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 yes. Sample comments here. So hopefully that was useful. Again, the main thing is a little different than what we've done before is that equals in the and syntax in the expression, and then combine that with the dynamic content. So leave me some comments. If you have any videos that you'd like to see, just send me a message there, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everyone.